That's number one. You kind of reset.
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
Same shoulder length, and the other. Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I'm Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor, and Brandy Rashidian is my other half.
Not
and
a
we're sitting
chiropractor.
real close together today.
I know. We have to share a mic.
This is nice. Yeah, I did shower.
This is
so
nice.
That's good.
Like we never sit next to each other.
I have to look at you from like far away, but it worked out. We're sharing a mic and
Sometimes
everything.
he reaches out like this because
This is very romantic. But so
we have
we have
guests,
two
sir.
amazing guests with us. We have Eric Schanzenberger. Schanzenbacher. My mistake. I knew I was going to get that wrong. I should have practiced.
I can never
Schanzenbacher.
spell
yours
it.
is harder than mine.
It is. It is.
Oh, I don't know about that. It took me 6 months. I've known
both
him
our
for like 10
names
years.
are
and I still can't
pronounced
do it.
the way it's written.
Yes.
That's fair.
It's like Amir.
Amir on the wall.
Uh-huh.
And this is Daniel Butler. And they are both incredible. I don't want to call them trainers. I want to call them doctors because they're just so well versed in just functional anatomy and movements and patterns and posture and all of that. So we regularly have our patients go to them, and just they're it's not just fitness. They literally come out better, looking better, feeling better, being able to do things that they couldn't have done before. I remember the first person we worked on together was Jack.
Yep.
Oh,
You guys remember
man.
Jack?
Yep.
And,
That's a throwback. I thought about him
I won't
yesterday.
say his last name. He passed away a couple
Yep.
years ago, I think. or-
I actually just had a picture pop up of us having a staff meeting, and Jack was in the background
That's
Hysterical.
hilarious.
watching the
One of the
whiteboard
best
and
days.
told us, "I can't see anything that you're writing on that, but that looks good."
But I know a lot of our audience know Jack, so we miss Jack. Great guy, but I was in there working out, and I saw the exercises you guys had him do, and I said, I need every one of my patients to be in here. This is incredible. So just to give everybody, if this is first time watching us, Real Health Podcast is where we take the latest information on health and wellness, whatever's in the news, and we typically summarize those articles, read them to you, and tell you what it means. And our purpose is to help you always feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger. But every once in a while, we bring on amazing guests, and we get to talk to them about that, which is the same thing as all the latest information on how to be healthy, how to add years to your life.
And the best part is we're always bringing in local experts
Right.
so that the people that we're talking to, you can gain access to. So as you're ready to begin improving your health journey, we're giving you the people to talk to. That's helpful.
Right.
So you're welcome.
Absolutely. So, Daniel, why don't you start? Tell us just like, your story. What brought you to where you are today and where you started?
Okay. I'll give you the short story in
All right.
that sense. It probably started when I was 7 and broke my arm. Fast forward about 20 years and I had broken 12 bones. I've had 9 concussions, 8 motor vehicle accidents. By the grace of God, I've never had surgery other
Amen.
than wisdom teeth. But when I was in my mid-20s, I think it was when it really hit me that, oh my God, everything hurts. I'm not really feeling that great. My workouts are starting to suck. My overall life, just energy in general, I was just dragging. And I knew I needed to change something. So I actually had a friend who was a personal trainer at the time, and I was going to college for, I wanted to go into kinesiology, but he was a personal trainer at the time, and he said, hey, come work with me twice a week. I'm going to teach you some corrective exercise. I'm going to show you how you can really get out of this pain, out of all these injuries. So I was like, okay, cool. And I took a lot of it to heart. We worked out twice a week together, spent 30, 45 minutes each session, just teaching me a lot. And then from there, I continued on with college, and I just really kept up with a lot of that training and realized, like, wow, I feel monumentally better. I'm actually stronger now than I was then. And just overall, my energy, my mood, my sleep, it's all so much better quality. And I realize nowadays, a lot of people are in need of corrective mobility, functional based training. You don't have a lot of bodybuilders anymore. That area is kind of dwindling out. You just don't have a lot of people really, I guess, like CrossFit around here. The mobility was a big aspect though, and I realized like, wow, I could really help a lot of people just based on my own findings and my own injuries, and just building on that. So I took that and I ran with it, and it's been pretty successful so far. And I've really enjoyed helping people, and I find that the reward in life is so much bigger for them than, helping somebody get their squat max from 240 to 275 or whatever it is.
Well, that's rewarding to some.
Certainly. No, certainly.
Some won't get
I don't want
there,
to take
and
that
that's
away
okay.
at all.
But the point is, everybody needs that mobility.
100%.
I think that person who wants to increase their squat max, if they
They still
had
need
proper
it.
mobility, they would do it easier and better and with less risk of injury.
Yeah, and you said something also, which was you said that kind of transition came at about 27, right?
Yeah,
About
so it's
20
in my
years
mid
after
20s,
you.
like 24 to 26 is when it really kicked in.
And you said, I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling crappy. Now we have some 30, 40, 50, 60-year-olds that are out there listening and going, oh, let me tell you, honey, wait until you get, and I don't want to hear that because that's not what it's about. You can feel crappy at 25, 28, 30. And there are things you have to do to get your body to functioning better so that you don't continue to feel like that. Same thing at 30, same thing at 40, same thing at 50. So it's not just about age.
That's true.
I just wanted to address that because people say that all the time.
And that's one of the biggest points that I make to everybody is I feel better at 32 than I did at 22 when I was still playing baseball.
Right.
And a lot of it is because, sure, I'm down 20 pounds because that's what they wanted me at in college, but it's my joints feel better. But I'm also putting a lot of emphasis on how are my joints moving.
Right.
Not, okay, I'm going to go in and bench press and I'm going to squat and I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to do the motion without thinking about, okay, if I tell my ankle to help my knee, to help my hip, now I'm thinking about it from a much different perspective and it's moving a lot easier.
Right.
So that's kind of, I mean, that's something that Dan and I both, we emphasize. Like your joint health is going to improve your muscle health
No, it's number one.
significantly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell us your story, Eric.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of, who
let's
are
hear it.
you, sir?
So my story is kind of a lot different than Dan's.
No 8-car accidents. He must
8
have been
and
a race
counting.
car driver. We're gonna get back to that.
No real major accidents in general for me. I mean, I've had one surgery on my hand and that was it. I mean, and I grew up, played baseball, went to college, played baseball. In college, I wasn't really thinking about what is my future. It was baseball is now, we'll figure it out when we're done. Got done playing and kind of was in just a rut, didn't know what I wanted to do. Was still going to the gym, but I didn't have a strength coach anymore to, hey, you're doing this today, and mindlessly just go in and do it. So my workouts were kind of, whatever. So then I talked to a guy named Chris Campbell, who used to be the
Chris.
the site director over
He
at
has quadruplets, doesn't he?
triplets.
Probably
He's
feel
like, please don't give me one.
Yeah.
quintuplets.
I've seen those three on Instagram, and they've got their hands full.
Oh yeah, I bet. That's his workout.
That's exactly right. So I talked to Chris, and Chris was kind of like, "Hey, listen, this is what I do. Stop in, see if it's something you're interested in." So I stopped in, and him and I got discussing and talking, and went, did my research, did my studying, took my test, got certified, got 2 more certifications on FMS and just how the body moves and how to assess it. And I mean, when Chris hired me, it was like hit the ground running. Here's 4 clients, go. Figure it out on the fly. I failed more times than I succeeded that first year, but I think that that's something that not enough people do. I think we need to let people fail. I agree. Especially in our industry, like learn from your mistakes of okay, maybe I programmed that wrong, or I gave the wrong set rep range wrong, something. Figure that out. And then Chris found out he was having triplets, and
Oh no.
I got the phone call and stepped in, and that was the same time Dan and I kind of met. And that's a story in itself. He's working out on the floor, and one of my assistants, he was like, "Hey, I think he'd be a good fit here." Of Come to find out, Dan was a good fit, and Dan wound up with all of that person's clients because he left. So it was, I mean, it's all been a perfect storm for how things have just happened. And not saying that it should happen that easy, but it's been a relatively easy journey to get here. To maintain it is the more difficult thing. But such is life. And that's kind of, I mean, you're going to go, and even in your training program, you're going to go through ups and downs. And it's the important thing that we try to hammer home is, listen, you're going to hit a plateau at some point. That's when our job really starts. How can we take you from your plateau and redirect, reprogram, reassociate some things to get you to move past that?
How many guys do you see in the gym who are at that plateau, and they've been there for 5 years,
Forever.
10 years? They do the same workout.
Yep.
They haven't grown. They haven't changed.
Weights are
They
the
haven't
same.
lost their
are
what
the
their
same.
lift is this. Nothing's changed.
Nope.
And they're in there over and over doing that.
Yep.
You know, Bruce. There's a quote attributed to Bruce Lee. He said, "There are no limits, only plateaus."
Correct. Amen. 100%.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to hit another one.
Yeah.
I mean, at a certain point, well, I mean, it's
Adaptability, right?
exactly. And that's, and when we talk about mobility, I mean, that's what mobility is. That's what mobility training is. It's creating that adaptability in that deep tissue to, I mean, and once your body is showing us what its range of motion is, that's our job to now train in that range of motion, not just get to it and then be like, okay, this is how much you have. That's
Move
good.
on.
Right.
Yeah, let's go bench press.
Right.
No,
No.
train in end range motion, like, and that's we don't see enough of it.
And you know, a
I
lot of
agree.
people assume the higher level athletes have that stuff figured out. They need it more than anybody else.
Correct.
Like we've
100%.
been working with the basketball team, Frederick Flying Cows, and then the
rugby.
rugby team, and gosh, they're man, they need you guys.
I mean, basketball is a prime example. I mean, if you have bad dorsiflexion in your ankle,
Exactly.
it's going to go up the entire chain.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
Be out with a knee or
yep.
back
You
problem.
might be out with a knee. You might wind up with a hip,
Yeah.
and it's just going to go up the chain. And that's, I mean, kind of what we look at. If you come into us with a knee problem, the first thing we're probably going to check is your hip and ankle.
Yeah.
It's always the next one up and the next one down.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's so amazing because so like with the cows, we'll have them put their foot about 8 inches away from the wall. Say, don't let your heel come up. Touch the wall with your knee.
Yep.
They can't do it.
Nope.
And that's standard. That's
simple.
yeah, that needs to be. And then I want that knee to track over the second toe.
Yep.
You know, so if it goes out, if it goes in, you're gonna tear an ACL.
Yep. Or a hip labrum or
Right.
anything. I mean, it's going to go up the chain at some point.
Absolutely.
And the thing that interests me in basketball is how many guys wear high top sneakers.
Yeah.
They almost can't get into enough dorsiflexion. So what goes next?
Right.
The knee.
You know what I mean?
Same thing happened with the ski boots.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that ski boots used to
Yep.
not even cover your ankle.
Yep.
They were just they were ski shoes.
Yep.
People were breaking their ankles, so they made boots that go halfway up the calf, up the shin, and everybody started tearing their knee ligament.
Yep. It's crazy how that works.
So I don't know which is better, hurting your ankle, hurting your knee.
Lesser
Which is
of
better?
evils.
You've done everything.
Oh,
Which
I
feels
don't know.
which feels better?
I've never done anything to my knees, ironically.
Knock on
knock
wood.
on wood. Phew.
Good
I,
dorsiflexion.
I thought it was dorsiflexion.
Yeah, just so you know, dorsiflexion is the toes coming towards the knee is dorsiflexion. Toes going away from your knee is plantar flexion. So dorsiflexion is the most important one. In fact,
Okay, everybody stop. Test it right now.
yeah, get up against the wall.
Not if you're driving. If you're driving, do not
Pull
test
over.
this.
If you're driving, test your plantar flexion.
But seriously, you will probably
metal.
be surprised. Like, I mean, I know I have a massive restriction in my left ankle. Like, I can feel it. I can feel that I cannot get the same flexion as I can in the other one, and I know it greatly affects all the tracking of the knee and everything. So, but test it out, and then if it's not tracking, come contact one of these guys because they can help teach you what you need to do to be getting that where it needs to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got a former high level athlete, and you got a professional injured person.
I wear a helmet when I train
And drive.
and drive.
But experience is key.
Seriously.
Experience is key, and I am in that gym regular, and I see them training patients, and then I see those or people, and I see them as patients in the office as well. That's like breaking plateaus. That's where it happens. So what's the most common problem besides ankle dorsiflexion? What's another common problem that you guys are seeing regularly that are leading to the everyday aches and pains that people are complaining about?
And if we need to bracket this into age, we
that's what
can
I was gonna
as
ask.
well, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure what you're seeing in like 20 and 30-year-olds is probably vastly different than your 60 to 80-year-olds.
Yes and no. I mean, you're starting to see the beginning phases in 20 and 30-year-olds to what you see in a 60 and 70-year-old, that some of it may not be irreversible at that point. Spending 30 to 40 years, like the biggest thing I'm sure, especially in our middle age or our adult population, is so much computer-based work nowadays. Or driving, you're at a computer, you're
We're all
sitting
like
down.
this.
Yeah, so you got the
Especially since
rounded
COVID.
shoulders. And COVID, yeah, accelerated it
Yeah,
dramatically.
everybody working from home.
And you couple that with weight gain, I mean, it only just exacerbates it that much quicker.
Right.
So now you're looking at tons of lower back issues, tons of hips that don't move well, and tons of shoulders that are rolled forward.
So
The upper cross
basically,
syndrome.
that picture that we keep seeing come across social media of those really weird looking humans. That,
Oh, yes.
Have you guys all seen
Yeah.
those images,
The
those
future
graphics?
humans.
The future humans, where we're all like big bellies,
Big hand crooked to the side or
hands are
whatever.
like this. It's really creepy. So let's all not do that.
The spine will be a C by 2030.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of the direction we're going. I mean, the lumbar is starting to tilt, and you've got that cervical and upper thoracic starting to
Shrimp
leak
posture.
forward. Yep.
Yeah, seriously.
2030, not going to be a good year, folks.
No, it's not.
Yeah, all around.
Scary things in 2030.
You guys should have been. I said we should have recorded the pre-conversation because that's what it was about. It was all the controversial stuff.
Deep,
my
deep
favorite.
rabbit holes.
These three have the same mind. I think.
We're going to meet for
yeah.
dinner later and talk about all our
goodness.
conspiracies.
Pick back up.
Absolutely. Goodness. But speaking of conspiracies, and I wouldn't say this is exactly a conspiracy, but money has a lot to do with it. And a lot of people are programmed to believe you take a pill, you feel better. And then parents are teaching their kids that. Because when the child has something, whatever it might be, upset stomach, parents will say, take this, you'll feel better.
Right.
Then you got the guy at the playground behind the fence, and he walks
Take
up and
this.
says, take this, you'll feel better. And the kid goes, Mom said the same thing.
Yep.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Association.
You know, it was funny. Naveed had gone away on a missions trip. I don't know if I told this story, and he got sick while he was away. And
Naveed's
so-
our oldest.
He's
And
our
he
oldest.
trained with these guys.
Yeah. So he was on the missions trip, and I get this call, and he said, I'm not feeling well. I think he maybe was nauseous, maybe he threw up, and he had a headache or something like that. And so they called to ask if they could give him something. And I was like, well, what do they want to give him? I'm like, because for me, I go, okay, go rest. Like, go drink some water, go rest, And they go, Tums. I go, oh, good Lord, don't. Sorry, maybe you can block that out if you need to, Sean. I'm like, no, you don't need that. There's nothing indicated that if you have a fever, cool. Like, go lay down and let the fever go. Like, it's killing the bacteria that's
Your
there.
body is
if
working.
you threw up,
Right.
cool. Now you don't have all that.
There was
stuff
something in there you had to get out. So
Right. So-
better out than in, Shrek said.
That's right.
And if we actually paid attention to those old adages that were said, do you guys remember? What are you supposed to do? Feed a fever, starve a cold.
Starve a cold. Yep.
Right? Why do they say that? Because when you are fevering, you need to make sure that the body has energy to keep the fever up so it can continue to kill the bacteria. The fever will go away when the bacteria is gone, but the body needs energy to do that. So you pick specific things. You don't do a lot, but you do enough to give energy, right? But when you have a cold, you have something else, you don't want your body spending all the energy digesting food. So you want to keep very little food in the body and let it go ahead and eat all the bad cells. You want it to be able to, keep the immune system running and not have to worry about the process of digesting food. So we need to go back to some of those thought processes instead of like reaching for something really quick or running to our local drugstore and going, okay, what is my body telling me right now? And is this a good thing? And if it is, maybe I should just let it play out its process that it was designed to go through in these situations. Like, we're already pre-programmed. We don't need additional programming.
Yeah, and part of that pre-programming is this other thing that I want you guys to chime in on is so many people have, like, I don't know, an injury or it's typically an overuse injury, and their doctor goes, okay, no working out for 6 months. And you go,
that one.
My favorite doctor.
Take
man.
a muscle relaxer.
I need this to cancel my gym membership. I go, but that's what's going to help you get better.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't, no matter what's injured, first off, there's something you can do with that injury. Secondly, there's all these other joints you should be training
Correct.
that you're not training. So talk to that.
You want to take the lead on that one?
Sure. I mean, I love it. I think it's not hilarious, but I tend to get a good laugh. And I mean, don't get me wrong. There's certain times, okay, you just sprained your ankle. Yeah, don't come to the gym an hour later and try and work out. Give yourself a little
Or at
time.
least do upper body.
Just do some upper body. That's
Right.
cool. I can respect that.
But don't go running on the treadmill.
Correct.
And don't do nothing for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and expect that you're just going to walk back in and pick right back up where you left off. I mean, that's not the way our body's going to work. We need to build
Atrophy.
back into it. Yeah, we have a little bit of atrophy. We have a little bit of time where, hey, our body got tight. We weren't doing anything. We stiffened up a little bit. Our joints are stiffer. Our muscles are stiffer. Spend a couple weeks. Do your stretching in this time period, and biggest thing, make sure you're doing something light. As you get better, as those weeks go by, start adding that movement back in at a pace that is controllable, tolerable, and you can build on it and progress it.
Right.
But that drives me crazy, and we definitely hear it a lot where it's like, oh yeah, I injured my shoulder. I'm gonna go get a cortisone shot for it, and I can't work out for 3 weeks. And it's like, oh my God, why? Why are you doing that to yourself?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what cortisone is? Do you have any
Especially when they
understanding?
do the cortisone shot before they do an MRI
Correct.
Well, they have to nowadays.
with
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go do 12 weeks of PT before they'll do an MRI.
Correct.
It's ridiculous. But then again, insurance won't cover training. They'll only cover physical therapy.
Actually,
No, to kind of piggyback on what he was just talking about as far as the doctor's notes that we get for patients, I think unless you've done, and this is where I think second opinions come in deep critical, like you need to go probably get a second opinion. And let's compare. If both doctors are saying, yeah, we probably should rest it, maybe we should do some PT so we can do an MRI. Okay, that's fair. But if one person, and I think you have to look at, especially as we get older, if we start becoming more dormant, what are we doing to our body?
Nothing.
You need to get up and move. Dan and I were just talking about this yesterday, ironically. Like on Dan's grave headstone, we're going to write, just go for a walk. Because sometimes just go for it, relieve stress.
Improves creativity.
Get some blood flowing and see how much better. I mean,
some oxygen.
it's funny because I had a client, she was just in a fender bender Monday. She sent me a text Monday evening. She's like, "Hey, I can't come Tuesday. I'm pretty sore." Sent me a text Tuesday evening. She said, "What do you think I should do?" I said, "Come in. Let me see you Wednesday morning and let's just get moving." 30 minutes in, she's moving better. How you feel? Great.
Nice.
Okay. So we got some blood flowing and good things will happen. Like the body will send blood to places that it needs to be sent. As long as your heart's doing this,
Right.
it's gonna help you.
There was a research study that came out of University of Maryland. I think it's the Center for Integrative Health, and they found that movement in the pain-free range of motion heals that injured joint.
Correct.
So we immobilize unnecessarily
Yep.
too much. Sometimes you do need to immobilize, but not always.
Yep.
Right.
Other times you need to just move it, but the key was pain-free range of
Pain-free,
motion.
yep.
So if this shoulder can only move this far,
That's
well,
fine.
you
Move
do
that far.
20 reps
Yep.
in that range, it shouldn't hurt you at all.
Right.
But you keep moving it. You'll notice by the 20th, you're going a little higher.
Higher. Yep.
That's perfect.
And there's still no pain.
Exactly. Because we want our goal. Because then there's the other extreme, right? The people who push into pain and push too much into
No
pain.
pain, no gain.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
The
That
infamous
might be
saying.
added.
Oh.
I don't know. There is some beauty in that.
There is a little bit.
So, yeah.
And
Because
again,
you
it's
should
what
feel
type
a
of
little
pain.
bit of pain after a really good legs workout.
Sure.
After any workout, right? We should not
You have
feel
to
effort.
define pain.
I-
There's
I-
good
and
pain.
that-
there's bad
I was
pain.
going to say, I think the one of the misconceptions is, what is pain?
Right.
I mean,
Is
does it
It's
hurt?
relative,
Does it
right?
hurt, or is it uncomfortable?
Right.
And what is the diff? And I think that's something that we have really struggled to identify. I mean, uncomfortable, your body will adapt.
Oh, yeah.
Pain, your body's going to tell you something else.
Right.
And that's when and understanding when and how to do that, I think is a lost art, or maybe we never found it.
Well, I think if we're not moving and we don't experience the full range of those feelings, we're not going to know where that lies, right?
Yeah.
Like if I had never had a frozen shoulder and had that impingement, it would be much harder for me to be able to identify, soreness versus pain versus, the loss of range. I mean, because sometimes we don't do our full range of motion when we have that little impingement. We'll mentally just go sometimes too far underneath of what that range really is. That's why we need experts like you guys.
That's right.
Guiding us when we have those injuries. I mean, if it wasn't for starting to lift, I had a frozen shoulder for almost a year, and I was doing hardcore therapy between, adjustments and massage and FST. And it wasn't until I put lifting back in to the equation that I actually got exponential progress. I got a little bit here and there, but nothing like I did when I started lifting again. So it was really great advice.
So then, they're the people that, like you said, I think you mentioned it, that they're uncomfortable with a certain exercise, but they have to do it. And I always tell everybody, if it's too easy, you're not going to change anything in your body. Your body's going to stay the way it is. So how do you push without pushing too far?
I would say the best way to get somebody to do something that they're uncomfortable doing is educate. And talk about the benefits, kind of what we're doing here. Talk about the benefits of what we're doing and explain the why. And typically, I would say 90% of the time, if you can explain the why to somebody, they will at least try it. And then if they try it and they're like, oh, okay, this I don't feel the pain here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see if we can get 8 more. Go until your body says no.
Right.
So again, it's a lot of adaptability,
Right.
and a lot of it with us is adapting on the fly. Like, you got to know regressions. If it's too easy, we got to progress. If your body's saying no, and it's a pain no, not an uncomfortable no, then let's regress it a little bit and see if we can't figure something else out.
Yeah.
But I mean, we take a lot of credit, or a lot of just pride in being able to regress everything. If you can regress it, you can train anybody.
Well, and for you guys too, it's a lot about your relationship with your clients.
100%.
You guys have such a fantastic rapport, and it allows you to push them in ways that other people would not be able to. Like, they train both Kuchelu, Grandma Kuchelu, and Gaga. So Doc's Amir's aunt and wife, aunt and mother. I don't even know who I am or who I'm
What is
talking
going
about. What are
on?
these relationships?
I thought I knew your family dynamic. Apparently, I did not.
This is getting weird.
Going back to conspiracies now. But it's funny because you can push them.
They're in their
ways-
70s.
Yeah, and you can push them in ways, and the results you've gotten, especially with his aunt, and I say her specifically because she's always in there. Like, his mom comes back and forth, and when she's gone, she does not do what you guys tell her to do.
I don't think she does.
I know she doesn't.
I
And
ask her, and she tells me she does.
of course she does.
I got 2 videos though. I can verify.
Oh,
I had
really?
2 videos sent.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe occasionally she's doing it, but we know that it's really not what she should be doing, because she comes back in way worse shape than when she left.
Well, and they both train with Dan, and I just kind of sit back and can watch, and I can see the strides that Homera has made are astronomical. I mean, she, from a lady that came in and could barely walk up and down the stairs, to now she comes in and she flies up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
Versus Homa, who, like, at times, like when she gets back from being away for 3 months, it's like, things like
Square one.
sometimes I'm starting back at square one. Sometimes I feel like,
Yeah.
so I mean, continually
Yes.
Consistency.
pushing, and consistency is the best word. I mean, it's the best word.
I tell you, just physiologically speaking, you know, the spine grows bone spurs, discs collapse, they fuse, and there's nerve pressure and all kinds of terrible stuff. Why does it happen? It's always a lack of mobility. So if I take a perfectly healthy elbow and I put in a cast, I immobilize it for no reason. I just put a cast on it. You can't move it for a year. When you take that cast off, there won't be an elbow there.
Nope.
It'll be one solid bone. Literally, the bones will grow together and fuse. It'll become one. On X-ray, it'll be one bent bone that has no joint in it. That's immobility. So we sit all day and don't move, and then we crawl into bed, we lie all night, and then we sit all day again. Most people.
Most people listen to you, talking about putting a cast on a healthy arm, and they go, "Oh, we would never do that."
But we
yes,
do.
you do it all day long.
It's just
you're
an
putting
invisible cast.
right.
Yeah.
You're putting an invisible cast on your entire body, and you're not moving.
Your chair is a cast.
Exactly. Motion is life. Some people say motion is lotion. I think that sounds disgusting, but motion is life. Do you know what I mean?
I love it.
But I mean, it does make sense, right? Because when you're constantly moving, you don't have to. I mean, you're constantly lubricating the joints. Everything is moving. It's good stuff. It's what we're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to sit all the
Yeah,
time.
and we learned, what do they say? Language is, or movement is the language of cells.
Yes.
So if you want to talk to your body in any specific area, you have to move that area. Otherwise, how's communication from your brain to that area going to happen?
Right?
This was an episode of what was House? Do you remember House?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
gosh,
TV
what a good
show? So there's an episode where this person was in a body cast apparently for a while, and their brain shrank.
Oh, I believe that.
Literally, the brain shrinks when there isn't proprioceptive input. Proprioception is joint sense or joint position. That's why none of you have to look at your knees to tell me if your knees are bent or straight. Your brain is receiving that. It knows where every body part is. How it knows is because the more you move, the more you become aware of that. That's why a gymnast who's tumbling through the air, or these like Olympic divers that are doing these flips and everything, they always know which way's up, which way's down. You throw me off some kind of a height and make me tumble, I won't know which way's up and down because I don't have that kind of proprioception.
Right.
The more proprioception you have, literally the smarter you are. It's hilarious because everything in your brain ends up working better. Movement literally feeds your brain. The brain feeds on all input, especially movement.
Well, and kind of like what you and we've discussed before. It's the spine is the highway for those for that
Everything.
for that memo to get to the brain. The spine has to be healthy.
Right.
If you have a block there, it's like 270 on a Monday morning. You're going to come to a standstill, and you're not going to get to where you need to go.
Right.
If you've got something going on in your lower body and you've got a spinal issue or something of the sort, it's not going to get to the brain. And
Yeah,
then
take
and
all
then
three
what
routes.
kind of damage have you done from there?
Science shows that it only takes the weight of a dime, which is 22 millimeters of mercury pressure, to cause a 60% reduction in those messages.
Yep.
That's crazy. 60% of the messages.
Now, you
could
want to
be-
hear something really crazy?
What?
So the founder of chiropractic said there's two types of nerve conduction. One is the action potential, which is what we all studied in biology, right? Or neurobiology or whatever, where the you got the sodium potassium pump and the electric gradient changes, and then it fires, and then that action potential goes down the nerve path. Well, the problem with that is when they looked at how fast, you know, when you're, so you haven't had car accidents, when you when you're driving that car and you know you're about to crash, how fast your foot hits that brake pedal.
Oh, it's instantaneous.
It's so quick. I mean, you've had near miss collisions or whatever. Everybody's experienced this, where you have to hit the brake. It's just boom. You actually move so fast that the next day your muscles are sore.
Yep.
It's like a 1 rep max.
Yep.
Maximal contraction. You're like boom. So how does that happen? So they studied that. They said the action potential model of nerve conduction is not enough to complain. Is not sufficient to explain how fast. Because first the eye has to see it.
Yep.
The eye has to send through the optic nerve to the brain. Then it goes to the visual center. That has to go to the motor center or whatever. And so all these pathways. Then a signal has to get sent all the way down the spine, down the leg, to the foot, tell the foot to move, right? And then a signal has to come back and say, okay, we did it. So all of that, it can't happen. So somewhere it's about 0.75 of a second. So 75% of a second is how long it would take with an action potential. But people do it in 0.3 seconds, which means the action potential is not. So the founder of chiropractic said there's a vibrational component. He called it tone. He said nerves in your spinal cord is constantly vibrating like a guitar string. So when a guitar string is vibrating, the whole thing's vibrating. And when you press on part of it, the tone of the whole thing changes. And that's how the brain sometimes communicates, by changing vibration, so you can make things happen faster. So, and everyone thought he was a quack, right? But they think all chiropractors are quacks. And even chiropractors thought he was a quack because he couldn't prove it. So then years ago, I was actually in Iran talking to a guy who was he was part of a team that won some kind of Nobel Prize for working on the cold laser, which promotes healing in the body. And so they created this laser technology, and they got lots of awards and everything. So now a lot of people use, physical therapists and doctors use laser in their offices. We have one as well. And so he said there's a wave component to a nerve, and it's called the soliton wave. And they said now it's documented and it's true. And so 100 years ago, the founder of chiropractic was right. There is a vibrational component.
Wow.
To
It's
that.
incredible.
It's
It's pretty cool stuff.
that is.
So going back to like moving, every morning when I wake up, I try to move every joint in my body 10 times in every direction. Literally takes me 17, and you've seen me rolling around on the floor. It takes me 17 and a half minutes. And it's a lot, but I do it every morning, never miss. We were camping in a tent, and guess who got up, went out, rolling around the grass, moving every joint. Now, every joint, I mean, not fingers, wrists, things like that, no, but like the main joints, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, and then everything in the spine. And
Some of the other joints move because you're moving the other
Correct.
ones. So
Right.
you probably still get your fingers in your wrists.
but I still don't think that's enough.
Okay. Well, but that's a good starting point for everyone else, because majority of people don't even do that,
Yeah.
right? I
Right.
mean, part of that though is that you have experienced such a great loss of function in your body from having multiple disc issues.
Disc herniations.
Yeah, that you know what it's like to be fully incapacitated. Like, you know what it's like not to be able to make it to the bathroom on your own. You know what it's like to not be able to walk, not be able to work. The problem is most people don't think about how important their body is until they don't have it anymore.
Yep, right.
And unfortunately, often it's too late.
Yeah, so like if you have an injury and you call these guys, say, hey, train me, help me rehab this, whatever, that's perfect. But if you don't have an injury, now is the better time to call these guys.
Correct.
Because you don't. It's like saying I just crashed my car, So let me put my seatbelt on.
You're never gonna live this.
I'm
life.
gonna keep
That's
talking.
okay. Hey, I think Amir was the first person I called after my car accident to say, "Hey, when can I get in? I just got
the
rear-ended."
18th
Pretty
car
sure that's
accident.
correct.
The 18th car accident.
The 18th. Knock on wood.
And the last one.
But no, you're 100% right. I mean, I think like if you are able-bodied, now is the perfect time to really emphasize your mobility
right.
and your stability and
Set yourself up for your future.
exactly.
Because what are we doing with that? We are reducing the risk of future injuries.
Yeah.
And that right there is the best insurance you can ever get.
Prehab before rehab.
100%.
I looked it up. It's like the number is huge. It's like 30,000 people, elderly, die from just tripping and falling.
Yep. Yep.
And
And
if
it's
they'd
not the
been
fall. I mean, you break your hip and you're incapacitated for how many months, and your body just completely atrophies at that point.
exactly.
There's so many things you could have been doing prior to that that would have
Exactly.
prevented.
Back to blood flow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you need blood flow to every part of your body.
100%.
And once you're in the hospital, you're at the risk of more meds. You're at the
Yep.
risk of
Everything.
surgeries. You're at the risk of higher levels of infections. Of
The food's not good.
I was listening to the podcast, Cassie and Callie Mead. Have you heard of these doctors? They're friends of RFK Jr. and they have been speaking against. But at least one of them was a surgeon. Both of them were high level medical doctors, and they've both decided we're not going to do surgery anymore. We're not going to prescribe drugs anymore. We want people to get healthy. So they were on the Joe Rogan show, and they were talking, and she said, how we make money, they tell you when you join a hospital, they say you're going to eat what you kill. What does that mean? That means you need to drum up business.
Yep.
You're a surgeon, you need to create surgery.
Yep.
That's how you're going to make money. And she goes, my first, 10 years of my career in the hospital, I'm constantly trying to say, maybe you need surgery. Let's do an operation on you. Let's do an operation on you. She didn't like it. She couldn't live it. And then the brother, Callie, I think is his name, and he said, yeah, I basically worked for Big Pharma. That was my real boss, because we're all incentivized to prescribe.
Yep.
yeah,
Sad truth.
I mean,
So when you talk
other
about
commercial
being
is
in the
drug
hospital,
commercials.
and then you saw the stat that hospitals have vacancy rates just like hotels do.
Yeah.
How sad is that?
You would want 100% vacancy.
Yeah. Ideally, you want
Ideally.
that.
In a
But
perfect world.
That's what we would want.
hotels
Yes.
are like, we can't have more than like 20% of our rooms empty. Hospitals have the same thing. They don't want more than 20% of their beds empty. So if someone's not that sick, but they have the vacancy, they'll try to keep them an extra few nights
The
to
beauty of coding.
milk
people.
the insurance. Yeah. And then we reported on that article on the podcast about how doctors were incentivized to make every person's problem look worse with codes so that they could treat them longer.
Yeah. It is a big business. And unfortunately, we are the individuals that they are looking to foot the bill for all of it.
Thankfully, there's more people speaking out. More people are doing the work that you guys are doing, which is preventing this kind of thing. Injuries, illness, arthritis. Arthritis shouldn't exist.
No.
Well, and I think it is funny though that if you guys think about it, like 30 years ago, right? We didn't have a gym on every corner. We didn't,
No.
right?
100 years ago, we didn't have any.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
It was a couple, whatever you could create with logs and whatever you could basically build, concrete
Right.
weights. That's
Right. Well,
that's
and
it.
we had more physical labor jobs
Yeah,
too,
people
where people
move.
had to
People
move,
move.
so they had to be healthy. So how is it that we have more technology in medicine? We have more gyms. We have more skilled people who can teach people how to be working out and be mobile, but yet we have more illness. We have more cancer, more heart disease, more stroke. We have higher incidence
Obesity, diabetes.
I mean, we have everything we need don't get me started on the food though. We cannot talk about that
Yeah.
today because I'll
my
lose my
goodness.
crap. Anyway, but we have all of these things that are supposed to be making us healthier. But here we are. Our kids are sicker. Our adults are sicker. So you cannot look to the system in order to fix your health, because the system is not here to make you healthier. The system is here for profits, and it's not for our profit.
Take our pill.
Right. So you got to start thinking outside of the system. This is why we have experts on here. Give you people outside of the system.
I'm telling you, you start keeping your body mobile and healthy, less heart disease, less cancer. Why do I say cancer? Because it's an inflammatory process.
Yes.
You reduce inflammation by just taking deep breaths.
It's a lifestyle
Oxygenate
disease.
your body. What's going to make it? Some people say the best benefit from exercise is the fact that it makes you breathe heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, aside from mobilizing all the joints, but just as a systemic thing,
Yeah.
just if you're not exercising, how often are you taking seriously deep breaths and
You're
expanding
not.
your lungs?
You're not 100%. And getting into a season like we're in, like we're coming into,
The cold season.
like you have to make sure your respiratory system is strong, your immune system is strong, and all of that is going to be contributed positively by exercise and by, increasing your mobility. So just go do it.
So the people you guys know who were training, working out, exercising regularly, when this virus showed up and this pandemic happened, how many of them were deathly ill versus the people who don't exercise and don't move?
The people that we see that we were seeing on a regular basis, and we were doing stuff outside, online, all kinds of stuff.
It didn't stop for us.
It never stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, and I never had somebody cancel a session because they were sick.
Right.
I mean, and I'll be the first one to say I haven't been to a doctor in 10 years
Right.
since I stopped playing.
I was
And
26.
Yeah, and
Parents insurance.
not,
That's when it ends.
Yep.
the biggest thing that I changed was I mean my workouts. I was making sure that I was getting them in 3 to 4 times a week. I haven't been sick in 10 years.
Yeah.
This concludes part 1 of this podcast episode. Part 2 will continue next Monday, November 4th. Thank you for listening.